We do largely real estate.
Is your office there in town? There's my cell. I'm up here in the Buttermilk office. I live in Kent County. I grew up in Walton. Yeah. Got a lot of contacts. Stacy's still here. Yeah.
She's coming.
Well, when we got redistricted, they took away Ashland oil plumbing in the east and extended Stacy's area. They gave her all of Spencer, and they took, we had a little sliver of Jefferson County there to the Gene Snyder Highway from the old, but they gave us in the district hard state. So she's been down there 2 or 3 times. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I actually, the first year, I went to Owington's chamber meetings down there at Smith's Restaurant.
Yeah, first thing in the morning.
2 damn early in the morning. I mean, I forget, doesn't it start at 7:30?
Yeah.
So see, I'd have to get up at 6 or something.
You might even get up early, an hour or 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
I remember Frank Downing was a big inspiration when the chamber started that.
No.
He was the president of the legislature.
Oh, okay.
And then he was retired and started back up the chamber.
Oh, okay. I love Smith Restaurant.
Smith House is amazing.
I've been there a couple times, yeah. Like I said, my sister married Jack, so they're related to Larry Tackett. And I knew, lost track of them, but I had friends from Boy State and that with Andy Kamek. He's still around. God, his name was Rick. At an auto store. That was in the 60s. When did you move?
We came back in 2000.
Oh, a long time ago.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll give you this. We can help people through our office constituent services with any federal agency, okay? So I'm not trying to take jobs away from you, but if you run into some indigent people or people that.
I don't do any of that kind of stuff anyway.
All right, it's a little bit
Like
after.
you said, you real estate. So those are the, especially now,
So you're left.
it's really difficult to pass.
We'll go ahead and get rolling here, and we'll start with the invocation followed by the pledge, and then Chris will give the reason.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this meal and the nourishment you provide us and everything you provided for us. Please help us make the best decisions for our communities today. Please protect our first responders and all our men and women in the military. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a couple guests with us that want to introduce. So we have the great senator from Campbell County and Crack Cousin, Shelley Bunsen-Stromeyer. Thanks for being here. And then we have Mr. Dennis Keene and the Governor's Office, and I think Bob Porter's around. So thanks for joining us today. Always happy to have our esteemed guests at the meeting. Do we have a forum? Great. Have a purpose for you. First item is to approve the agenda. Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item we have is the minutes from the January meeting. February meeting.
Make a motion to approve the February minutes.
Thank you. A second. 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 Any questions, comments, additions, deletions on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now to the administrative heading. We'll start with consent agenda and Clay, I believe you're up.
Good afternoon. Our spring cleaning here recently over the last couple of weeks, found a whole bunch of equipment that we just don't need anymore. So we're asking for permission to remove this property from our inventory and recycle it away.
So moved. Motion for the second. Second. Any questions for Clay? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Financial reports, Lance, you're up.
Me, your check.
You've never provided the financial reports as of.
Otherwise, I could, in meetings, I'll get lost in my own agenda.
Presented this to the Finance Administration Committee. I'm just going to give you an overview of it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. So what we have on the screen here is the consolidated ad statement of activity. This encompasses all the divisions. So as of February 28th, ideally we should be about 66% expended in all of our funding sources. Our budgeted revenue for this year is set at $24.1 million. And as you can see here today, that is at $18.6 million. And that's roughly about 77% of our funding sources. If you compare that to last year, at this moment in time, we did receive $16.7 million. So revenues have increased over this fiscal year. The budgeted expenses was set at $23.5 million. And as you can see, the expenses as of February 28th is $16.4 million. And that's about 70% of our expenses year to date. And if you compare that to last year's expenses, we are up about $1.2 million from last year. That's a brief overview of our expenses. I did want to mention that wasn't in the board packet, but if you look at our cash balance and our cash flow as of February 28th, we do have $2.7 million in cash funding. That is about $258,000 more than we had last year. So we're at a good stance on the cash flow point of view. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'll answer them.
Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve financial reports. Motion in a second. Second, Chris. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. Please stay up there, because now you're on the audit RFP.
So the time period for bids for our audit services did come to a close. We did receive 3 bids for services, and brought these bids to the committee, and our recommendation is to go with the current auditor of Barnes and Denny. I'm sorry, I don't think this was in the packet. But I do have the evaluation form here, if anybody would like to see it. But Barnes and Denny is our current auditor, and they came in at the lowest bid, the lowest amount of hours. We feel like they did good quality work for us last year, so our recommendation is to continue with that audit.
What were those bids?
Pardon me?
Do you have those 3 bids?
I do, yes. You'd like to see them?
I mean, you can just read them off.
Oh, yeah, so we had Barnes and Denny at 26,000, RFH out of Lexington, I believe, at 40,000, and Von Lehman at 35, 41,000.
How many years have we had Barnes Denny?
So we go out to bid every 5 years, so I think we went out to bid in fiscal year 18, so it's been about 5 years we have it.
This is the same firm we've had for a little
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
So within that firm, do they assign you new auditors?
The last few years, I know that we've had we've had the same person.
That's a good practice.
It is, yeah.
I would recommend that you do that.
Yeah, they have different divisions within the audit firm that they specialize in the government side, so they don't keep the same people, but.
Fresh eyes.
Can we make that a condition of the contract that we get assigned a new auditor? Because that's the inquiry I was gonna make, is that I think it's important for us to rotate. And actually, I thought that was what we discussed last meeting.
Being the new person or the firm?
Sorry,
Staff.
I thought last time we were discussing a new term, but I mean, these numbers are quite different. And so, why waste $15,000 when we can get the job done for less? But if we can have a different individual on the contract, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, we can mention
So
that.
do you, am I out?
I agree.
Okay.
We
I think
had
you're right, but you may want to check with their staffing and see if they have the personnel, different personnel that can play those parts.
So the other factor that we talked about, and I've talked about Lance, is the state auditor has the option to audit 2 ads every year. So they pick 2. They're sort of moving west to east. They don't have to move that direction, but that's been the pattern. And we think it'll probably be this ad's opportunity to use the state auditor probably in about 2 years. The other thing we talked about in the F&A committee was, I don't know that you necessarily want to switch firms this year, have a whole new auditor, have plans, everyone accustomed to that, and then the following year, the state's in here, which is a whole new auditor, and you're back to after that. So what I had talked about with Lance was, I think we should continue to use Barnes Denny until the state does the audit, which could be either next year or the following year, probably at the latest. And at that point, if you're already switching to a new auditor for 1 year with the state, revisit this conversation after that period of looking at switching a new firm, looking at switching out, looking at the partner on the engagement and some of the staff, so that there's some operational efficiency for the ad staff and you're not possibly having new auditors 3 years in a row. So that was the other conversation, right? Because not knowing exactly when the state auditor will say, hey, we're going to pick an type of ad, makes long-range planning around these type of things a little tricky.
So what is the term of the current contract? Is it 5 years?
There's really no term, we just kind of redo it.
It's 1 year.
With 1 year with an option 4 years, yeah.
And it's brought before this board each year to authorize the renewal.
But one other thing that we did put in it, there were some more questions I wanted to ask before we went with them. So if we do get halfway through the year, maybe we don't like something, can we cut it down? We have to wait until June.
Right. Like a termination without cause, right, or something like that.
So you have more questions you want to ask to the firm?
The main thing is that they put the terms in terms of like the field work as starting in October. And it's a little late. it really needs to start earlier than that for us. If you all remember who were on the board, they were a little late, and so it went into January, and we really wanted to be finished by the end of December. We really wanted to come to you all at the December board meeting, which is actually earlier in December. And that's because of a number of our various grants, to be able to not have to get extensions and various things like that. And so we want to make sure that they are willing to start the field work earlier in the year so that we don't run into that rushed feeling that no one likes.
And do we need to make this decision today? Because if you got more questions that you want to ask and maybe contingent on whether you go with that firm or not.
I mean, maybe you could do it contingent on.
And we don't want to hold up business. If you think we need to do it today.
We feel that we would like to make the decision today, only because if we want them to start earlier, we'd like to be on their, to be able to get on their calendar.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that would be the reason that, that we would like, that, you know, if you want to make it contingent upon them being able to do that.
Yeah, if there's contingencies the board wants to put on the approval.
I'll make a motion to approve Barnes Denning, subject to the approval of the executive director.
I'll second that.
Second. Discussion, any more questions?
I just had a question. You indicated that the state would be auditing in the next couple of years. What happens with Barnes Denny if the state's doing an audit? They do that for the whole year and they don't do anything?
Correct. Anyone who does government work knows that's always an option. We run into the same thing at the county. We put in our audit contract. So Barnes is aware that there will be a year where they won't get the engagement because the state auditor has right of first refusal on other city audits. So the firms kind of know that's part of the game of bidding on the government work. So yeah, we wouldn't pay Barnes and the state. We're not contractually obligated to them. We would just call them and say, hey, the state auditor picked this year. We don't need you. We'll figure out what we want to do after that. So that's common in this space, and the firms are understanding that they will get bumped once every 4 to 5 years.
I can let you know that we have already heard from the state auditor that they did not choose us for 2023. So we know for sure that we will need an auditor.
Cheer for that one,
Yeah, good or bad.
They just don't love us, so.
They picked 2 different ads instead.
But they could be in play for 24 or 25 at the latest, and that's also kind of gone the idea of let's not have multiple switches.
That makes sense.
Do we know what the state charges the year that they do it?
You know, do you know that they?
I think the other ads were charging like 35,000.
They charge whatever they invoice you.
I know within the Association of Counties, there had been a lot of discussion about how expensive the state auditor was. And I believe there've been some discussions about negotiating those prices, but I knew it was more than we pay on the private market.
Yes.
Especially for some of those smaller ads.
Yes.
This all came about, I forget the House bill, so you're those on the board, sort of the ad oversight bill, they called it at the time. Like a lot of things, there's a problem at one ad and then they pose a solution on ads. So that's how the state auditor came into this conversation.
Maybe when they pick us, you just say nothing.
Any other questions? Good discussion, good questions. If not, we have a motion second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Lance. Terry, you're up for the WIB build ED contract.
So unfortunately, Corey Eimer could not be here today. He's actually in a meeting of all the WIB directors across the state in Frankfurt today at the ad house. But in your packet that you received, there is a contract that we're hoping to have signed for the WIB to engage with a group called Build Ed. This is actually a part of our grant that we received from the city of Huntington. So thank you to the city of Huntington for that opportunity to serve their residents through this particular grant. Build Ed will be providing some really cool like virtual reality or like those Oculus glasses, if you guys are familiar with those, or you can see it's not virtual reality, I can't think of the word. But anyway, you get the idea. You put on the glasses and you can see all these really cool career opportunities. So it feels like you're in the space where you're learning about healthcare or other different fields. And so the grant through the city of Covington will pay for this. It's just that the dollar amount exceeds what I'm allowed to sign for on my own. And our bylaws call for your approval for your contract over $5,000, which this would be over that amount. So happy to entertain any questions, but.
So we're just the avenue, pass-through avenue for, how many clients do we anticipate, see, 60, I guess, licensed, and they're $780 per?
Yes, and the idea of those licenses is that it's really not, it hopefully could serve more than 60 because multiple clients could use, the device, just not at the exact same moment. So that hopefully we can cycle, lots of users through the process during the course of the grant.
And this will be mainly at the Covington Job Center?
Yes, it will be at the Covington Career Center just because this particular grant is through the city of Covington, and so it's only for Covington residents. Other WIOA programs are across the whole Dade County area, but this is not funded through the standard federal dollars. It's through the local funds.
I'll make a motion, we approve this WIB Build AED contract.
Second. Questions? Mr. Covington for doing this. I was at the demo of it at the all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Joining us on the screen are Mr. Joe Cottingham. Joe, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to inform everyone that I have a clean bill of health this month as well. So we keep doing the right things.
Good. Keep the streak alive. Thank you, Joe. In the programmatic section.
I'm back.
Yep, Tara is back to hear about our Title VI plan.
Okay. And I apologize for the last minute email yesterday, but it did come to our attention that one transportation, one transit grant through the cabinet for transportation does need an update to our Title VI plan. And that plan, if you're familiar with like equal employment opportunity documents, it's very similar to that. This is a non-discrimination plan so that we can show that we are not discriminating for any recipients of services that would be provided through those grants. And then also we have a plan in place that if someone would have a complaint, that we would be able to address those complaints in an orderly and consistent way. And so I do have a copy of the plan up here. It's approximately 70 pages. So again, I apologize. I will say it is almost exactly the same as the previous plan. The only things that have been changed are Lisa Cooper's name was replaced with my name, and some other staff members that have changed, their names were changed as well. The rest of the plan is very consistent with our previous plan, which is why I felt comfortable going ahead and sending this to you in maybe a limited turnaround time, just because the plan is the same as it was previously. Any questions?
Hearing none, would entertain a motion for approval. Motion, we have a second?
I'll second.
Julian seconds. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Keep getting that federal money. And you're up again for the executive directors.
Yeah, I have a brief middle report about the division local government services. And it's really just great news that I'm very pleased to share that we are filling out the staff vacancies that have been in place now for quite some time. So very happy to share that on April 3rd, Chris Courtney with Boone County Fiscal Court is coming to our team as the Associate Director. Thank you, Judge, for graciously letting him come over here. We are very happy. Chris has so much leadership experience. He was a veteran in the Navy, served on sub and led the team there. He's been with Gateway Community Technical College as well as Northern Kentucky Community Action Commission, and has been with this board, if I'm not mistaken, for 7 years. Yeah. And so I think he has the temperament and the character to lead his team to great heights. So I think you will get to meet him at your next meeting. So just wanted to let you know that. We also did have another position on that team that is new, kind of reorganized a little bit, called Local Government Services Manager. And that position, I can't announce it yet, but it has been filled as of yesterday. So that is going to be really wonderful news for all of you in terms of the services that we are able to provide through that team. And just, you know, if there are any hiccups during the transition, just appreciate your patience, but feel free to give me a call and we'll make sure that we're handling anything that needs to be done. There's a number of grants that are coming open soon, and we have been meeting with a number of local communities to talk through those. So happy to talk with your community if that's something, if you see, whether it's CDBG or COPS grant or any of the other different ones that are available. So that's just my only update on that team. Could not be more thrilled to have those individuals join us.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. Okay. So I do not have a PowerPoint today because in the interest of time, I wanted to make sure that we give Commissioner Keen plenty of space. But I did have a few things that I wanted to share with you. So I'm just going to do that verbally. First of all, very pleased to share, as many of you may know, annually we have an optional voluntary system that we call the Fair Share. For communities to pay into the Area Development District, and we use those dollars for local matching dollars. We also use that to calculate the amount of hours that we can serve a community at no cost. So if a community is not paying in, or if they're a partner that is in a community that doesn't pay in, we can provide 15 hours of service at no cost. But if they do pay in, they get an additional 15 hours. And the way that we calculate that is by the most recent census. So we use census figures, and then we multiply that by a per capita basis. And I'm so sorry, but all of a sudden I've forgotten what that number is, but I want to say it's like 40 cents or something like that. So we are at 91.9% payment for the Fair Share, which just went out in January, so really it hasn't even been that long. So just wanted to say thank you publicly for all of those communities that have continued to support the add-on services that we provide. Thank you very, very much. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I also just wanted to get to staff updates. I think it's great when our team can be out in the community representing the ad and sharing the content expertise that they have. So I want to let you know that Corey Eimer has been selected to lead all the WIB directors across the state. So he'll be doing that starting next month. This was previously done most recently by Amy Glasscock, was with the Bluegrass WIB, and basically this person works directly with the K-WIB. They're very active in putting together the meetings for all the other WIB directors, and it really, you know, is someone that all the other WIB directors depend on. So I think so early in his tenure, having been chosen for that is really cool. So just wanted to kind of publicly recognize him for that and say congrats. And then also, Ian Wildman, who is our Associate Director for Aging and Disability Services, is going to be on a panel for the Northern Kentucky Chamber's Eggs and Issues, Solving Caregiver Challenges in the Workplace. That's going to be on April 18th in the morning. And so I just want to say congrats to Ian for being asked to be on that panel. Very cool. Also wanted to share just a very quick, I was asked if there were any legislative updates, and I'm sure Senator Funky Fromeyer probably could tell us all kinds of things. I'm just going to share one that is ad specific. All of you have other venues and other associations to get all of the other legislative happenings, but I did just want to comment very quickly on House Bill 9. which was, I believe, passed in the House, but is currently in Senate A&R, so I don't know that it will continue with the limited time available in session. That calls out both the Department for Local Government and the Kentucky Council on Ads specifically. And it establishes a new program that would be called Government Resources Accelerating Needed Transformation. And that makes a really nice acronym called GRANT. So good for them, whoever came up with that title. I just wanted to point out, because several people had asked me about this legislation, and it does call out the ads, that it is really focused on responding to, I'm gonna read this, the Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization that was established by Presidential Executive Order 14008. So the reason I'm being so specific about that is that Northern Kentucky is not called out. None of our counties are included in that list of specific counties. So I haven't mentioned it in the past during the session in our other meetings because it doesn't really impact us unless this program, and Commissioner, if I'm wrong about that, maybe let me know, but certainly we welcome any opportunity to partner with CLG whenever possible, but I think in this particular case, because these dollars are coming from a very whole specific fund, I don't know that it'll really impact Northern Kentucky in particular, but certainly I'm excited to see the legislature coming up with new ways to utilize both the ads and the Department of Local Government whenever possible. So I just wanted to let you all know that that was the nature of that particular bill since it called us out. And happy to continue following it. Like I said, we don't have many days left, and with it being still in Senate A&R, I'm just not sure that where it's going to head from here. Also, just wanted to briefly let you all know that you may be contacted if you are in a county that is not Boone County, because they already have this plan. But if you're in another county at the county level, the ad was amongst other ads that were chosen for a Safe Streets for All grant. And we will be using those dollars to create an action plan that will then come up with priority projects to increase roadway safety. We'll be able to fund some activities at the county roads level to be able to have staff go out and identify, say, like low-hanging branches that are hanging over the roadway, or maybe a stop sign that's really ill-placed and hard for drivers to see. Those kinds of low-hanging fruit, if you will, projects that could, for really not too much money, dramatically increase roadway safety. The idea is that this is the plan that names those changes that could be made, and then future funding would then hopefully fund creating those. And so Jeff Phelan, our transportation planner, is the main contact with that grant. We don't even have the contract signed yet. We're doing our first conversation with the cabinet next week. But if you get a question from Jeff, or you're like, what is this? Just wanted to let you all know that conversations will be coming. He will be using the Area Development District's Transportation Committee to run this, but there may need to be additional meetings of that group in order to work through the grant. So yes.
So just for clarification, the grant is just for the study, not for the correction?
Correct.
And
that's a normal.
I know, but I just wondered if it creates any, I mean, I guess we've got a community, but.
Yeah, and hopefully if there are things that are identified that are truly low cost, that maybe other funds can be used to identify how to go ahead and correct those. I don't know that we would just say, oh, we're never gonna do anything until we raise other funds, but there could be things that would be too expensive without additional money. Okay, yeah.
I believe the key point here is that if you have your plan in place, it gives you additional points and increases your potential for receiving other grants.
Yes.
So it's having a plan and creating that plan, and that's what we've done.
Correct. And the other thing I would just add is that normally we do not do any transportation planning for Kenton or Campbell counties, but we did get in touch with OKI, who handled that normally, and they were not planning to apply to do this action plan. And so as a result, we worked with both of those counties and added them into this so that they could benefit from that. Yeah, good point.
Tara?
So, yes.
Does this include anything with reflectivity of the signs or anything like that?
I do not know for
That's a great
certain,
idea.
but I would think that it would. Yes, because it's definitely those kinds of things, the signage and roadway impediments. So if you have something that you are aware of, that you'd like to bring to Judge Diener's attention, definitely let him or I know.
Just ask him about that.
Okay. He already knows.
It's a broad project, believe me.
Okay, okay, cool. Also just wanted to let you know, speaking of staff support, that reapportionment will be happening, is starting in May. And so Jeff Burt will be reaching out later in April to work with you all and make sure that that is all handled. There's a very specific time frame, and you have to publicize it, again, if you're a county. And then finally, there is an opportunity for grants for charging and fueling infrastructure. And I just wanted to let you all know, we're not really planning to move forward with that, but it is something that's mentioned in the regional SES plan. And so if this is something that our region is interested in, we would need to put a team together pretty immediately. Yes, Mayor.
You're talking about like for semi-traffic?
I am not
EVs.
necessarily, more like electric car charging stations or propane refueling stations or something like that. I don't know enough about it to know that semis would not be involved, but my understanding is it's for regular passenger vehicular traffic. So there's a total of $700 million under this new federal grant that came from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And so there are millions of dollars available in this area. Like I said, it's not something that we're necessarily pursuing, but wanted to bring it to your attention in case you want this too. Yes.
Sure, I tell you, city council is very interested in
Great.
that.
Okay.
We're currently trying to outfit our garages for EVs.
Perfect.
That
Okay.
fits into our city very well.
Well, how about I will hand you this, and then maybe you and I can have a talk after the meeting. Does that sound fine? Okay. If anyone else is interested, I would like to know. Yes.
Sarah, I might add, I find this fascinating because at a recent NACO meeting in DC, Esri was there, and Esri is what we all know as GIS. They are the brains behind most of our city county systems. They are focusing on EV charging in conjunction with updating our comprehensive land use plans. And think about this. I was intrigued by the whole conversation. It's like when the interstates came and bypasses were built, it left Main Street behind. A lot of times our main streets are dying. Use EV charging stations to drive, no pun intended, to drive people back to Main Street.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a land use discussion. So we might want to explore the potential of being part of a grant process as the ad, especially the 5 counties that aren't part of OKI, and Covington as well, obviously, but any of us. I think it's interesting. How might it drive people back to Florence Mall, Mayor? Having EV charging. Of course, it has to mirror with the energy, the power lines, and where can they be? But just something to consider. I think it's exciting.
Okay.
It's beautiful tie-in. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, I do know that we have an A&R committee next week.
Okay.
I'm on that committee. So the HB9, I would like to better know your interest in me helping carry that forward. But also, you kind of mentioned, I filed a bill that focused on affordable and reliable energy and creating a smart energy policy. And of course, you might imagine Duke was asking me to file that bill. And it's really talking about securitizing a cool burning facility or a facility that has to be taken offline maybe earlier than its useful life. So it still needs to, it's carrying some debt. But in the tail end of that very lengthy bill, it starts to focus on the nuclear question and how do we maybe repurpose and create smaller nuclear because we've got to have more battery operated everything. And so it really can flow nicely, but the reality is we've got to come up with a city county plan that pushes us towards that smarter energy policy faster. So we're really doing quite a bit of work in the interim. So anybody that wants to be part of our work group in the interim, so we actually can legislate smartly when we go back next January, please let me know. Yeah.
I need ears in that room.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. That's my report, unless anyone has any further questions. And I would love to introduce our guest speaker for today, Commissioner Dennis Keene. I believe all of you should know him already. He's a Northern Kentuckian and has been a great partner to me since I started in this role, which has now been like, I think, almost 8 months ago. Commissioner.
Thank you, Kara. I greatly appreciate that. It's good to be home. I rarely get to spend a lot of time at home. I spend more time in Frankfurt than I do here, it seems like. So any opportunity I get to come and see some friendly faces that I don't see as often as I would like is always a present. But, you know, I'm probably the most controversial appointment of Governor Beshear's in office appointments because everybody wanted my job. You know, they thought they should have my job. This job, it works directly with the governor's office, and we take care of all the federal dollars that come down from the feds that aren't earmarked for transportation or education or healthcare. We take care of all the money that the grant money dollars that come in, like community block grants and those things that all comes through our office. We work a lot with ads. When I first took over, I think the ads are our boots on the ground. So I reach out to Kara and all the other ads and get information about what's going on around the state and what's affecting our area up here. They're very informative. Unfortunately, the previous administration didn't feel that way. They didn't communicate real well back and forth, and I really do appreciate what Kara does. It means a lot. It makes my job so much easier. And Lisa was just a real good friend that we had with the ads. I called on Lisa quite a bit. In fact, when I first came on the job, I tried to figure out, you know, everybody knows what you're doing good. You're handing out grant money, and everybody likes that. You know, you got friends you haven't met yet. But unfortunately, we still have, you know, problems that we have, and it's better to face those problems up front. And I got the feeling when I first took over is that we weren't communicating well with the ad districts. And so I found that to be true. And so we've turned that around. We have monthly meetings with the ad districts. We either have them on Zoom, and some of them we have in person. We're getting ready to come back in person. So that's impressive. It's nice to see people for real. You know, I live on a Zoom page all the time in all my communications. And the person here that really wised me up quite a bit when I first got this position, I didn't really know what all it entailed, but Judge Moore, he will wear you out.
Keep it up, Judge.
He was the first person to call me from Northern Kentucky, and I think I'm on his speed dial, you know, and but it's good because a lot of times the squeaky wheel gets greased, and so Judge Moore has been able to take advantage of that, and it's worked real well for Boone County and Northern Kentucky in general. But it's just a real pleasure to be in this position and get to work with the governor and all of his people on a daily basis. I get to go to give you an idea of how far reaching this is and why people feel like they would have been better qualified for my job. We've got one fund that's called ARC, which is the Appalachian Regional Commission. And we get allocated $50 million a year that flows in through our office, and it's all in grants, and it flows into the mountains. It's to help the coal impacted areas, all the counties. We put infrastructure in, we can do educational issues, we can do healthcare. There's just a myriad of things that we can do in that fund, which is most helpful to those folks in the mountains, and how devastated they are right now. Just last Wednesday, I was in Breathitt County, Senator McConnell had earmarked $300 million to help rebuild the homes in eastern Kentucky. And I went down on behalf of the governor and was able to meet with the Secretary of HUD and get that money. That's going to be a huge help to the people. They're devastated down there. Thankful that none of us have had that bad situation like they have. We've had opportunities with that $50 million. The governor was appointed the interim federal chair of the ARC, which means not a lot to us, but it does to the mountains. It's a big thing to them. And we just had, along with that honor, we get to bring in a conference, which brings in 13 states of people that comes in and has a conference in that area. And we picked Ashland to have that conference this year. So it's going to bring about 1,500, 2,000 people from 13 different states that come here and see Ashland, and they'll spend money. It's like the Super Bowl for if you compare it to something. It's like the Super Bowl for Ashland. They're just so thrilled to get that influx of people come into their area. We've just had a lot of great opportunities. Our economy's doing well. We're creating an awful lot of jobs. We're very fortunate, when people find out I'm from Northern Kentucky, and that Senator, you probably get the same feeling when you talk to some of your colleagues, that they think, the sun's always shining in Northern Kentucky, and when it's not shining, it's raining dollars on top of it. They just think we've got the world by the tail, and we don't. We have struggles a lot like everybody else, but they don't see anything. So that's why everybody thinks they should have my job, and not me. They think that this opportunities are wasted on us up here, but they're not. We look forward to, with the broadband money and all the other side. I know you got a presentation coming on with broadband. I'll tell you, I have to brag a little bit. Megan has hit the ground running and is doing a tremendous job. We are so lucky to have her from Northern Kentucky and to be over top. She's the first director of broadband. To give you some kind of idea how far we're behind in broadband is, I think every state around us has had a department of broadband for 10 or 12 years, and we've never had one. So this is really a tremendous opportunity, and to have Megan leading that, it's good for us, especially in Northern Kentucky. She's worked really well. But I'm here to do something very special. When I was in the General Assembly, Senator, I had, and you do too, I'm sure, I had the opportunity to give out Kentucky kernels. And this was always one of the great honors that I got to do around the state. In fact, this is the first one I've done since I've gotten this office. And boy, this is nice. You guys did it upright. But the Kentucky Kernels is an age-old thing. It's an honor to be awarded a Kentucky Kernel. Stacy here?
Yes.
Come on up, Stacy. I give these awards away. I travel around in DC and different places like that, and people will have these in their office right up front because they got a Kentucky Kernel. Yeah, you're in a big group here of Kentucky Kernels. George W. Bush, President Clinton, LBJ, long line of distinguished people all over the world, in fact, have been Kentucky Kernels. And it's my distinct privilege on behalf of Governor Andy Beshear to present you with this your Kentucky Kernel. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
And Judge Still, she lives in Grant County.
She is a Grant County resident, so I just thought that would be super cool. She just got it, so anyways, we are very grateful for Stacey and everything that she does for the Right, we do have a broadband meeting after this at 1:30. We are part of, we're the last of a town hall tour that the Office of Broadband is conducting across the Commonwealth. So if you do have an interest in learning more about what they're doing or, you know, providing feedback about what you need in one of your community, please stay. We're not, you know, we're not doing it, we're just the host, we're the physical location host, but their team will be here starting right at 1:30.
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of items I wanted to,
Yeah.
if I could.
Sure.
About 9 or 10 years ago, I made announcements to this group, but people change, people move on. So for those of you that have been around that long, I apologize if I'm redundant, but some new information. I want to reinforce that grants, letters of support for grants are still available in our office. It takes about 2 weeks to get one, so any existing grants that are out there, if you're applying for them, Congressman is glad to issue a letter. It'll take about 2 weeks. We used to be able to whip them out in a couple of days, but a couple went out that didn't have proper English language, or the congressman wants to read every one, and he does. So please allow 2 weeks. We get calls that I need it by Friday and it's Wednesday kind of thing. But any grant that's existing out there, the congressman is glad to write a letter of support. The other item is not only were we redistricted, but the congressman is on some new committees. He's still on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and he's on the Aviation Subcommittee, Highways and Transit, and Water Resources and Environment. He's always been on that committee. A year or so ago, he was appointed to the Judiciary Committee, and he is now the chairman of the Administrative State Regulatory Reform and Antitrust Subcommittee. So that's a new committee, and we don't know what the reaction's going to be right now, but we're sure he'll be busy with that. And he's also on the committee for courts, intellectual property, and internet. The other item is he's on the all-important rules committee. I honestly didn't know what that was, but every bill that's voted on to go to the House floor for a vote, voted out of committee, has to go to the Rules Committee. And the charge of the Rules Committee is that, one, is it constitutional, and does it follow the existing rules of the House that you all saw play out with the 15 votes on McCarthy? So Massey, not only Massey was appointed to that, but two other conservatives, Chip Roy and Norman from South Carolina. So I can assure you there'll be comments made if it doesn't appear to be constitutional. Of course, that can always be challenged in the courts later and go up or down. But I just wanted you to know the new changes in the office over there. That's it.
Anyone have any questions for Bob or any other comments, announcements? Not one final motion. Second. Multiple seconds, everyone's out of here.
Didn't take a vote on it.